Hello and welcome to Looking for a Man in His 30s, a Criminal Minds podcast. I'm Emma.
And I'm Sarah, and today we'll be discussing season 1, episode 13, Poison, which premiered on January 18th of 2006.
But first, before we get into the episode, we need to issue a content warning. Due to the nature of the show, we will be discussing sensitive topics which could include murder, violence, sexual assault, domestic abuse, animal abuse, elder abuse, alcohol, drugs, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, and more. Please take this into account when deciding when, where, and if to listen.
Stay safe, everyone.
So, first off, we should have a little chat. So, do you like my Taylor Swift Christmas tree farm jumper, Sarah?
Very nice. I do like it.
I am wearing this because when this episode is uploaded, it will be December. However, currently it's September and boiling, so I'm only going to wear it for the intro and then I'm going to switch to my t-shirt.
At least mine's a bit thinner. It's just a black and green one. You can't see the green because it's further down.
Yeah, it's all right. When I edit the video, I'll edit a little Christmas tree in behind you.
Yay! I did own a Christmas jumper, but I sold it on Vintage last year. So.
I know. God, Sarah. Why don't you keep things for just this occasion? Happy December, everybody!
Yay! Almost Christmas.
Yes! It's this episode and the next episode. The previous episode also is supposed to come out in December, but I'm not going back to record it and put Chris's jumper on then.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have not recorded in 3 weeks, which is the shortest amount of time we've probably ever gone between recordings, because between episode 11 and episode 12, it was 3 months.
Yeah.
We had to keep re-recording, and Sarah went on a few holidays.
Yeah.
And I had a few emergency medical crises. So yeah. What do you think has happened in the last 3 weeks? Sarah's been on holiday, and I've had a medical crisis.
Oh,
okay, so I don't know. Maybe it wasn't that much of a crisis. It was just me feeling like I had a sickness bug for a couple of days, so I complained to you about it, but I thought I would try and milk it for all it's worth.
Might as well.
Exactly. So do you want to talk about your holiday?
So for the last 16 years, me and my family have been going down to Gloucester every summer. And unfortunately, this year was the last time because the cottages where we stay every year, the owners are closed now, sadly. So this was the last time, but we had a great time. Me, my mum, my dad, my sister, her partner, and her 3 kids. And as you can imagine, I was surrounded by the kids all week. They wanted me for everything. Let me play with games with them. But we had a few good days out as well. I went to the beach. I paddled in the water a bit too far.
Oh.
Didn't think about it and got a bit wet. And then my sister got buried in the sand by a kid. So.
Hey.
Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, you had a bit of a wet trouser situation, and Jenny had sand absolutely everywhere for the rest of the holiday.
And she was wearing like a romper at the time. So.
Oh
no! It was quite like a short romper, so I can imagine sand going places where.
That's awesome.
Sand trying to be.
Awkward.
Bless her. Also, a funny story. So we've been back about a week and a half, and my mum got a lovely letter through the post.
Mm.
Turns out she'd accidentally driven in a buzz lane.
Oh no!
And got a fine. Thank you, Somerset Council, for saying that to my mum, because I thought it was hilarious.
So you may have noticed a small change in my background.
Yay!
I got it like secondhand in a bundle of craft items, and originally I was like, I'm going to paint it. I'm not a very good painter. So instead, I moved from doing what was a slightly normal thing to make this delightful mask.
Oopsie.
It's fine. Doesn't it look terrifying?
Beautiful. Yeah, well, it's when you bring it close to the camera.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I tell you the truth, I didn't want to put it in front of my desk because I thought, oh no, that will scare me whenever I'm like looking up. As it turns out, when you go to turn your computer on, you've just got a black screen. This looming over your shoulder in the background, fucking terrifying.
Oh, please.
So, might have to find somewhere else to put it, or I suppose become a bit more normal and change how it looks.
Yeah.
Either one.
But some tinsel around him at Christmas.
Yeah, that would be nice.
That'd be pretty.
But yeah, so as right on schedule, Sarah goes on holiday. I have a little bit of an episode.
Yeah.
But I also did some fun craft things that I will be displaying throughout the episode. It's a teaser. Sarah hasn't even seen this.
No.
I told her to be ready to be surprised.
I can't wait.
Okay. We'll be back with the episode recap after this short break. Welcome back to Looking for a Man in His 30s. Now we're on to Sarah with the episode recap. Sarah, wheels up?
Wheels up. The episode opens to a car driving on a dark road at night, Beechwood, New Jersey, through an eerie wooded area. The occupants of the car are a young boy and an older male, presumably his father. And the father notes the scary atmosphere outside. Referring to the trees, he says, they kind of look like those hooded creatures in the movie, don't they?
Why would you say that to your small child?
I know. That was terrifying. Even at this age, I'm scared of like scary stuff. It's evident that the pair are heading home from the movie theatre or cinema for the UK folks, as the dad asks his son if he liked the movie. The boy says he did, but then the dad reminds him that his initial response was, yeah, nah. And the dad says, that's the kind of answer I would tell my students is ambiguous. Obviously, through this comment, we learn that he's a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
It appears that the boy's parents are divorced, as the dad mentions spending time with the boy every other week. He says, we get to stay up late, eat junk food, and go see movies your mum would never let you see in a million years.
See, that's a really competent dad. Like, we're just going to eat junk food, mess up your schedule, and go see movies that terrify you. Like, oh, how wonderful you got divorced.
If that isn't the biggest fuck you to the mother, I don't know what is.
I know.
Yeah. Suddenly, a stag, a large male deer, appears in the middle of the road. The dad panics and brakes sharply, swerving around the animal. The boy's confused. He didn't see the deer. So, in his mind, the dad swerved for no reason at all. However, the dad is visibly shaken. This is when the sound of a flat tire slapping the road can be heard. The dad brings the car to a stop on the side of the road to get out and investigate. As he exits the car, the boy thinks that they should just call somebody. The dad reassures him, saying, despite what your mum says, I'm not completely useless. I'll be right back. I swear that guy really hates his ex-wife.
This is not telling me that they're really good at co-parenting.
No.
This is like almost him trying to be like, yeah, your mum's no fun, is she? Anyway, here's some junk food. Let's stay up till 6 in the morning. And then his mum's like, he won't go to bed for school. Yeah, well, not my problem. I only see him every other weekend.
Let me be a dick to my ex-wife, so then my son needs therapy in about 6 years.
And also needs a lot of help now if he's too tired to go to school.
I know.
Like, you're not actually doing a great job.
No.
Never mind.
Yeah. So the dad goes to the rear of the vehicle and opens the trunk, or boot as we say, to retrieve a tire iron and a spare tire. The boy is anxious and scared and keeps looking around. The dad keeps hearing strange noises outside, so he tells the boy to stay in the car. Something approaches the dad. Potentially hallucinating, he starts attacking the red-eyed, demonic-looking figure with the tire iron. While he's attacking the figure, the camera shot moves to the now empty car with the passenger door wide open. Ooh, fuck. Yeah, this is not good.
Yeah, none of this seems good.
No, it gets worse from here.
Oh, yeah.
The next morning, the scene is in the same location. The camera pans down from the trees to the car in the road with its trunk still open. A state police car arrives on scene and parks in front of the car. A solo police officer exits his vehicle and goes to investigate, with his hand on his gun ready to draw if necessary. He looks inside the car through the window and knocks on it. The occupant of the car is the dad. He screams for the officer to get away as he bangs his bloodied hands on the window. The officer then calls for backup. He reckons the dad is under the influence of something. And as he circles the car, still giving details over the radio, he notices the open passenger door and says, there might be another one. At this point, he turns towards the woods and immediately calls for an ambulance. He spotted the young boy laying motionless on the ground, heavily beaten. The camera shot then retreats from the boy and transitions to a man holding a crime scene photo. The man appears to be a detective, showing the dad photos of his son. He tells the dad that the boy is still unconscious, has 4 broken bones, and he's going to be in hospital for at least a month. Furious and upset, the dad hits the table and claims he didn't hurt his son. The scene then transitions from the room where the dad is being interviewed to the BAU team watching them on the screen. The detective, whose name is later revealed to be Hanover, asks the dad if he remembers removing the tire iron from the trunk of the car. The dad screams, "No, no!" Hanover asks him what was the last thing that he remembered. At this point, the camera shot shows the team sat around the table watching the interaction, with Gideon standing behind them. They all look concerned. The dad tells Hanover that he remembers picking his son Eric up from school on Friday. He then asks what day it is now. Back in the BAU office, he tells the team that these events happened 2 days ago in Beechwood, New Jersey. The dad, Mr. Fisher, had ingested LSD one afternoon and didn't come down until 18 hours later. JJ informs them that the hospital has reported 6 other patients who had also ingested LSD within the last 24 hours. The hospital called the CDC and the CDC called the BAU team. Morgan says, so a bunch of people got spiked. What makes it a BAU case? It says the patients each received 10 to 20 times the normal dose. Reed says, that's enough to kill a small child. Elle says, or cause a grown man to kill him with a tire iron. Elle, calm down, woman.
It's too soon.
Bit too soon. And I don't think he's dead yet. Or dead at all. So.
No, I don't think he dies.
Yeah.
But also, why is Morgan like, oh, people getting spiked? God, what a routine case. Sorry, wait. Do like 20 people often get spiked across the United States? Is that... I'm a bit worried now, Morgan.
Yeah.
What's going on?
JJ states that out of the 7 victims, there was 1 death and 1 coma. She shows the team security footage from the hospital on the same night that Mr. Fisher attacked his son. The patients are seen frantically moving about. Gideon says, these people didn't get spiked. These people were poisoned. And cue open credits.
I would argue, what's the difference between them? You're still giving someone a substance against their will.
Yeah.
I think we could just reclassify spiking as poisoning.
Yeah, pretty much the same. So once the credits end, we get the opening jet scene as Gideon gives his opening bookend quote, which is Roman philosopher Lucretius wrote, "What is food to one is to others bitter poison." On the jet, JJ shows a picture of the victim who died. 78-year-old Gail Norman. She ran out in the middle of the road and was hit by a car and was sadly pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. 9-year-old Brittany Cannon fell out of a treehouse and fractured her skull. She's now in a coma and the doctors are unsure if she'll ever come out of it. Gideon asked JJ how she wants to handle the press. She says they still don't know how the victims got dosed and says that it'll be irresponsible to issue a warning without specifics as it'll just cause panic. She tells them that she did notify the local PD though. Morgan questions how none of the victims knew they'd been poisoned. Hotch replies that none of them remember anything about the day that it happened. JJ says because the victims are so messed up, it's been difficult for the local PD to retrace their steps. Gideon says that they need to go on precedent and refers to 4 types of poisoners who target multiple victims. The first one is the true believer, and this is usually political terrorists or members of religious cults. The second type is the extortionist, and this is a product tamperer who holds a business hostage in exchange for money. The third type is the prankster, usually a young offender who doesn't mean any harm, just wants to cause a little bit of a prank. And the final one is the avenger. This is somebody with a personal vendetta who chooses poison as their weapon. Gideon says that they need to discover the type of this poisoner as quickly as possible. With the exception of the prankster, the remaining 3 types commonly test their poison on a small scale before carrying out a larger attack. Morgan says, let's just hope this was a prank. Gideon suggests splitting up the victims to see if there's a pattern to the victimology. Hotch says that most of the victims are still in hospital, so he'll get local PD to meet them there. Reed says he'll check the lab reports for a clue to the unsolved motive by the specific poisons that they've used. Hotch says, I can't imagine anybody could want this to happen. He shows a photo of Eric in a hospital bed, all bandaged up. The scene then transitions from the photo to the actual hospital room. Eric is asleep with bandages around his head and face. His mum is with him. Gideon and Hotch are outside the room, and Detective Hanover greets them and tells them that the doctors have said that Eric might have permanent brain damage. He asks if the team has had a chance to review the victims' files. Gideon says they're especially interested to talk to Mr. Fisher. Hotch says, we'd like to get a sense of why he turned violent. He explained that while the lab analyzes the nature of the LSD he was dosed with, they want to get a sense of whether it was the drug itself or whether something else was going on, as it may lead to the MO of the onset. Detective Hanover says that Mr. Fisher is currently being held in the psych ward, so they all head up there. Gideon walks into the ward and greets Mr. Fisher. Mr. Fisher asks him, shrink or cop? Gideon tells him that he's an FBI profiler, so he guesses he's a little of each. Gideon introduces himself properly and empathizes with Mr. Fisher. Gideon asks him about his divorce and why it happened. Mr. Fish says, was I angry about the divorce? Was I so angry that I wanted to hurt my son to get back at her? Gideon asks, were you? Mr. Fisher proceeds to tell Gideon that his ex-wife slept with their neighbour, an investment banker, which coincidentally is the phrase that I use for someone who's an absolute wanker.
I think that's right.
Yeah. What an absolute investment banker. When you don't want to swear in front of other people.
I have no problem swearing in front of other people.
Yes. Mr. Fisher is upset that his son is angry with him, but it was the mum's fault for the divorce. Gideon tries to rile him up, saying that because Eric took his mum's side, it must have made him angry enough to do something to him. When will Gideon stop riling people up?
I don't know, because it seems to work, but it also seems sort of cruel.
Yeah. I swear he's got fetish or something. Mr. Fisher is distraught and starts banging his head against the wall. Nurses come in to calm him down and Gideon leaves the room. He tells Hotch that Mr. Fisher is raw, broken, and seriously pissed off. Hodge asks, but he didn't hurt the son to get back at the mother? Gideon replies, not consciously, no. Hodge is convinced that the drugs didn't cause the rage, they just heightened it. Reed says that is consistent with the lab tox screen results. No trace of PCP or any other drug. The unsub was not intentionally trying to make people turn violent. However, traces of Rohypnol were found in all the victims. And one side effect of the Rohypnol is amnesia, which explains why the victims couldn't remember how or when they were poisoned. Morgan suggests that the drugs themselves could explain what type of offender they're dealing with. He says a lot of kids are using LSD and Rohypnol these days. He points out that Mr. Fisher is a high school teacher. Gideon thinks that it may have been a prank.
What do you mean a lot of kids are using LSD and Rohypnol? No. Sorry, Morgan. You've got to explain what you mean. Why? Yeah. Is something being done about this?
Hopefully, but who knows?
Or is this just like a lot of kids are using vapes?
Yeah. The mid-2000s were a wild time.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that went from my school was marijuana. So anything harder.
So your high school wasn't like, right, okay, so we've got some Rohypnol.
Nah.
Like, fucking hell, why do you have Rohypnol? I'm scared now.
Bit dodgy. And we went to Hodge. Hodge says, yeah, one that went horribly wrong. Elle leaves to get a list of all Mr. Fisher's students. A phone then rings and Hodge answers. He tells the team that the cops may have figured out where the victims were dosed. In the next scene, the team are in a cafe meeting with the detectives from the local PD. The team are informed that the staff at the cafe remember seeing 4 out of the 7 victims in the cafe on the day that they reported symptoms. JJ says to the detective, please tell me your staff didn't mention that the canvas was about poisoning. The detective replies that they didn't, but the cafe owner was informed. Gideon goes to talk to the owner, Nell, to see if she knows anyone who would do something like this, and suggests that local high school kids might be the culprit. Nell tells them to talk to Danny, a high school student who works there as a busboy. She says a lot of his friends come in and that his girlfriend was there Saturday night too. Hodge asks if Danny is working today. Nell tells him that Danny was supposed to be in after school, but he called in sick. Hodge gets Danny's surname from Nell. Find out he's called Danny Wallace. Gideon gets his phone number and Elle goes to check the school. In the next scene, Ellie's on the phone to Hodge. She's checked the high school and Danny's home, but he wasn't at either location. She's now at his girlfriend's house to check there. Samantha, who is Danny's girlfriend, answers the door. Elle introduces herself as FBI and asks to talk to her. Elle asks where her parents are. Find out that they're working. And then she asks her why her and Danny didn't go to school today. Samantha says she's sick. Then the camera shot shows bruising on her neck, which she then covers with her hand. Elle moves across the room to sit beside her and asks if she can ask something personal. Elle thinks something happened to Samantha and encourages her to tell her. Samantha seems scared and says that she doesn't remember. Elle asks what she does remember. Samantha says that Danny took her somewhere on his motorcycle. She said, I remember waking up, I was naked, I was all beat up, and he was there above me, holding me down. At this point, the house phone rings, and Samantha thinks it's the doctor phoning her back, so she answers the phone. But it's not the doctor, it's Danny, and she's visibly shocked. Elle encourages her to keep him talking. Danny knows that Elle's there, and he's demanding and threatening down the phone. When he hangs up, Elle takes Samantha to the door and tells her to call 911 while she goes outside to locate Danny. Once she's spotted him, she apprehends him and cuffs him. In the next scene, Danny's in the interview room with Elle and the detective. The detective questions him about Saturday night. Danny claims he didn't do anything before claiming Samantha doesn't know what she's talking about. Elle reminds him that a lot of people saw them together at the cafe that night. She asks him what he did, dose the common milk so that nobody would know that you wanted to root for your girlfriend. Danny denies it, of course. Elle then says, sex was an issue in your relationship. She told me about it. She wasn't prepared to give it up, so you decided to take it. Again, Danny denies it. Elle says, she had bruises all over her body, Danny. You hit her. And then Danny replies, well, I didn't mean to. She was freaking out, punching me. She was on something. I was just trying to help her. I was just trying to hold her down. And then Elle replies, she was hitting you, but you still had sex with her. He denies this. He claims it all happened after they had sex. He said they fell asleep, but when she woke up, she was seeing things. He was adamant that she was on something. He says he's taken acid before and says that if you give it to someone without telling them, it doesn't exactly set the mood.
I can't imagine it would.
No. Outside of the interview room, Hotch, Gideon, Morgan, and Reed are watching through a one-way mirror. Morgan says if he wanted to slip a girl a date rape drug, why did he give her LSD too? Reed says this boy seems too scared not to be telling us the truth. Hotch says that Samantha is the eighth victim, and Danny working at the cafe was simply just a coincidence. Then Gideon says, but even so, there may be an explanation of why the two drugs. LSD to hallucinate and Rohypnol to forget. Morgan asks, forget what? What were they hallucinating? Gideon says to forget how they got dosed. Hotch says that the unsub is covering his tracks. This is way too organised to be a high school prank. Morgan points out that there's been no ransom demand, to which Reed states, which rules out the extortionist. Hodge points out that there's no invisible political group or cult in the area, which Morgan points out that this rules out the true believer. And Reed says, and leaves us with the Avenger. At this point, Hodge says, we can give them a profile. Gathered together with the cops in the bullpen, the team outlined the profile of the unsub. This unsub is motivated by revenge. He's a local resident. There's random victims, average people in an average-sized town. People who poison for revenge usually act alone, but they may have manipulated someone close to them to assist them. And the assistant is then disposed of when they're no longer in use. They reckon the unsub is likely a cautious, deliberate, highly functioning male aged between 35 and 50. And he chose the LSD for a reason, as it alters perception. They reckon the unsub is striking out because he feels inaccurately perceived by the community. And he feels the attacks will affect and alter a reality he's caught in that he perceives to be unjust. They also believe the unsub self-centered, and he believes these victims will know the reason for the attack and who did it. He used the Rohypnol to obstruct the investigation by erasing the victims' memories. Detective Hanover asks why the unsub is covering his tracks. Gideon says they aren't his primary targets. Hotch tells the cops that this type of unsub, the Avenger, tests weapons first before scaling up. He says this attack was just a test run. Detective Hanover asks for what? Hotch tells him that they don't know yet, but they do know this isn't the first time the unsub has heard his grievances. Maybe before he's previously filed criminal charges or pursued his civil action against perceived adversaries. And now to measure the results of his test, he's watching. Gideon says seeing the results will help unleash years of pent-up rage in the form of a larger attack. Gideon is concerned that a lot of people could die. At this point, JJ enters the room and tells Hotch that there's been a leak to the press.
Oh, God. That's what they need.
The scene cuts to a news broadcast. A reporter is stood outside the cafe in Beechwood doing a story on poisoned food. Gideon is willing her to name the restaurant, but she doesn't, and panic sets in. Gideon gives orders to warn the local hospital. Hodge asks where emergency calls are routed and tells Detective Hanover to alert them that they're going to need extra personnel and auxiliary cops. Confused about the panic, Detective Hanover asks why. Hodge says they're going to have a tough time calming the public down and they don't need the confusion to interfere with the investigation. Visibly stressed, Detective Hanover tells everyone to calm down and tell him what this is all about. Just then, several phones start ringing around the bullpen. Gideon looks at the phones and simply says, panic. And the screen fades to black. In the next scene, a cop is on the phone trying to reassure a member of the public. JJ says she's spoken to the hospital and they're swamped with over 50 potential poisonings. Detective Hanover says they've looked into any civil or criminal complaints from employees, ex-employees, suppliers, and regulars of the cafe, but there's still no leads. Gideon is still convinced that someone from the cafe will pop up as a suspect. Elle asks Morgan to go back to the cafe to see if he can find another angle. Hodge sends JJ and Reed to the hospital to see if any of the new poisonings are actually legit.
Welcome back to Looking for a Man in His 30s. Take it away, Sarah.
Thank you. So at the hospital, JJ and Reed are trying to talk to the nurses, but the nurses are trying to brush them off, saying that they're too busy with patients. JJ tells a nurse that most of the alleged poisonings are likely psychosomatic. She tells her about the news broadcast. Reed asks the nurse to help them figure out if any cases are actually real. The nurse points out that one patient is barely breathing. Reed has to speak to the doctor looking after that patient. Back at the cafe, Morgan and Elle theorize why they haven't found anyone from the cafe fitting the profile of the unsub. Elle asks why the CDC hasn't found any trace of the drugs. Morgan has a brainwave. What if the target is wrong and not the profile? And Morgan says, just because a bunch of victims came to eat here doesn't necessarily mean that they got poisoned here.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like a small town.
Yeah.
Got like 3 restaurants and...
Mm-hmm. Like one of them times where you see the same people like every day.
Yeah.
Can't relate because my turn's massive. But...
I can't relate either. Everyone that I know is like, oh, Baltimore is such a small town. And I'm like, the only reason you think that is because you live in Southsea. Yeah. So Southsea is a small town. Portsmouth is a city. Yeah. And if you live in the north of the city, you never see the same person twice. Like, I have never once, like, my friends are always like, oh yeah, so we went out to dinner and we saw this person and this person and this person. And I'm like, I've never seen a goddamn person north of Fratton Bridge. Like, when I wasn't expecting to. I've never walked into a store in, like, North End and been like, oh, Erin, hi. Yeah.
Crazy. Back at the hospital, the doctor is telling Reed that his patient couldn't remember anything about her day and that her speech was extremely slurred. Reed says that it sounds like Rehypnol, and the patient's tox screen comes back as positive for Rehypnol, but negative for LSD. They're running more tests because Rehypnol alone doesn't explain her symptoms. She presented with a cough, nausea, difficulty swallowing, laboured breathing, and trouble moving her legs, and now she can't speak at all. Reed asks if the doctor knows of any biological agents that have similar symptoms. The doctor says he'll order a few more tests. Back at the cafe, Elle exits the kitchen after speaking to the owner. She mentions the bank across the street, the First New Jersey Federal, and says that one of the victims had been to the bank on the day that he was dosed. Morgan asks, how do you get poisoned at a bank? Elle says, I don't know, but I'd like to take a look at the security tapes. In the next scene, Morgan and Elle are in the security office of the bank, watching footage on a screen. Mr. Fisher and his son are seen on the video. Elle then mentions that all of the victims are present on the footage. She says that she'll contact Detective Hanover, and Morgan tells her to have him bring the CDC guys to the bank in order to test the candies that Mr. Fisher is seen grabbing on the footage. At the hospital, Hotch receives a call from Morgan. The patient looks at JJ and makes it apparent that she wants to talk. JJ goes over to her, and the patient says something that sounds like end. She said it's the end, before coughing and struggling to breathe. JJ summons the doctor to help her. Morgan tells Hotch about seeing all the victims on the footage. Hotch tells him to look for the current patient that him and JJ are with to see if she's also present. The patient is identified as Lynn Dempsey, age 45. Garcia will forward an image of Lynn to Morgan. Once received, Morgan shows Elle a photo of Lynn, and she begins searching photos from the footage to find her. Once spotted, she then looks through the footage to track Lynn's movements. It appears as though Lynn's the one who replaces the candies with potentially poisoned ones. Morgan suggests that she's the unsub, but Hotch speculates that she's just working with the unsub. Hotch ends the call and heads into Lynn's room. JJ and Reed are speaking to the doctor about Lynn's diagnosis. The doctor explains that Lynn's odds of survival are pretty much zero without an antitoxin. Hotch asks what the diagnosis is. The doctor replies, botulism. At this point, Lynn starts crashing. She's developed sepsis. JJ and Reed watch on, concerned. Reed simply says the test run is over.
Which, a really insensitive thing to say at the bedside of a dying woman, Reed.
Yeah.
Like, test run's over. Anyway, back to my life. Good,
Yeah.
You've got a life. She's dead.
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
She's gone.
Yeah. Also, do they not have an antitoxin for botulism that would be at every hospital? Because that's just a weird kind of food poisoning, isn't it?
I have no idea.
Well, I'm going to Google it. You can continue with what you're doing. You can continue with the episode recap.
So the pair leave the room and then the screen fades to black. In the next scene, it opens to a shadowy figure in a hat on a wall. A man is then seen walking down a corridor, keeping his head down. As he passes others, he's scratching the back of his neck, emitting some sort of nervous energy. A group of middle-aged men carrying camping gear pass him and head out of the building. One of the men greets a female co-worker who waves them off. The woman then walks further down the corridor and enters a room as we get another camera shot of the man in the hat. A name tag on his overall says Mike, while the hat has the word rentals on it. As the camera shot moves, we get a full shot of the logo on the hat, which reads Reggie's Rentals. As the man moves from where he's standing, we see a logo for the company he's at on the glass board behind the receptionist, which reads Hitchcock Pharmaceuticals. Back in the PD bullpen, Gideon is reading a file on Lynn. She's an executive assistant with no expertise in chemicals, so she doesn't fit the profile of the unsub. Morgan reveals that the CDC found traces of LSD and Rohypnol in the candies at the bank. Hotch concludes that Lynn was an accomplice. When the unsub was done with her, he killed her with the botulism. Gideon asks what this tells them about the unsub. Reed says he's far more sophisticated than they realized. Elle asks why. Reed says, botulinum toxin is the deadliest substance known to man. It blocks acetylcholine.
Acetylcholine?
Acetylcholine.
Acetylcholine receptors?
hard word,
I think
but
that's right.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Okay.
It blocks acetylcholine receptors, paralyzing its victims until basically choking you to death. Without an antitoxin, a lethal dose will kill you in 36 hours. Elle asks how many people have access to it. Reed explains quite a few have in New Jersey, as the state is the pharmaceutical and chemical capital of the US. Reed says the toxin can be ordered in the form of Botox through any chemical or biological lab or even a Botox clinic. Reed also states that it has to be purified, but chemists and lab assistants are able to do that. Elle questions if these are the kind of people that they're looking for. Reed confirms. Morgan questions if the unsub is a chemist. Why did he need Lynn? Gideon says that they don't know yet, but she did work for a company called Hitchcock Pharmaceuticals. And he suggests it's likely that the unsub worked there too. So perhaps the guy from the shot of walking through the company is the guy. We shall find out. Hotch recommends starting with people who fit the profile that have had a recent stressor. Morgan adds examples of people who have been fired from the company in the past 6 months. At BAU headquarters, Garcia is researching employees. She states over 100 people were fired in the past year, and so far none of them fit the profile. She tells the team she does have a list of 30 names of people who were downsized and shunted off to other lame companies with a cut in paid benefits. Morgan tells her to send them the names and they'll cross-reference them with civil and criminal complaints filed with the local PD. He tells her to keep digging and look for connections with the First New Jersey Federal Bank. Hotch says our guy is acting like a workplace mass murderer. He'd stay close, seething, and he'd plan his revenge. Elle asks what else does this tell them about him? Hotch says the unsub has lost his empathy, his moral compass. He's practically capable of anything. Gideon says the victims at the bank meant nothing to the unsub. As he says, he'll take out anybody to forward his cause. He references Lynn and suggests even the unsub himself, but says, but not until he finishes taking out his primary targets, though. Morgan is concerned that they still don't know where the unsub will strike next. Hotch suggests that Elle goes to the pharmaceutical company to scope out any leads. At the company, Elle is talking to the woman seen earlier in the corridor. The woman is shocked about what's happened to Lynn and says that Lynn's boss is away for a week. Elle asks her if she knows anyone who would want to hurt Lynn. The woman says that Lynn was quiet and a little socially awkward. She would make self-deprecating jokes and she suspected that Lynn was single but was unsure. Why is that description relatable?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you make self-deprecating jokes? And I'm quiet and socially awkward.
So am I.
Yeah, high five. I'm just one joking.
I didn't actually have the camera up, so I don't know what you did.
I just put my hand towards the camera.
Oh.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. Elle asks if Lynn's behaviour was unusual lately, like out of routine. And the woman says that Lynn was very busy last week helping her boss put together a company retreat. Elle thanks the woman and goes to look through Lynn's desk. At the PD bullpen, Gideon and Morgan are cross-referencing the names that Garcia sent. Morgan points out that some of the layoffs were brutal. He says this one chemical engineer had been at Hitchcock 19 years when he was downsized. Gideon replies, that could certainly inspire homicidal rage, yeah. Morgan says the guy was in his late 40s and the head of his department, and he definitely had a generous severance package. Gideon says all of these guys are living off pensions. They may not be happy about it, but I don't see them killing over it.
Yeah, that's a bit much to take into your retirement. Like, right, I've just retired. Instead of going on a cruise with my wife, I'm going to plot revenge against the company and kill them. And then I guess if we've got time, we can go on that trip to the Bahamas, Bob.
Some shining cup.
If I was their wife, I'd be like, absolutely not. No. Seems like a lot of energy you could be spending on doing the garden, doesn't
it? Morgan's phone rings. It's Garcia, and she says she's found a chemist who works for a company bought by Hitchcock called Palme Cosmetics. It turns out that Lynn applied for a loan at the bank around the same time that the chemist applied for a patent on his anti-aging technology called PCO 99.
Yes.
Morgan
thing that you can see put across billboards everywhere. PCO 99. Like, great name. Great name.
Makes you look 20 years younger.
Makes you look 99 years younger.
Yeah. But not because then you'd be like a baby, so that's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving swiftly on. Morgan thinks that maybe the unsub applied for a loan in her name to make the product. Garcia had the same thought, but both the loan and the patent were rejected because Hitchcock had already applied for the patent and the deal had gone through the same bank. Garcia says she's tracking the unsub's phone and she'll get his location soon. In the next scene, the team, a SWAT van, and several police cars race to what looks like a warehouse. As they surround the place, one SWAT officer pries the shutter open with a tool. Kind of looks like a Halligan. And yes, I watch Chicago Fire. Huge fan.
I do not, so I was completely thrown by that. I was like, wait, what?
It's like a metal, like, pole.
Yeah.
With, like...
It's got the spike on the end.
Yeah, it's got like a spike on the end and something like sticking off it that they can use to like pry doors open.
Yeah, I've seen it on Station 19.
Yeah. But yeah, huge fan. So he pries it open and he throws a smoke bomb inside. And as it goes off, the team and the SWAT head inside the building. A man is seen looking out of the window as the events unfold. A gun appears held at the back of the man's head. The camera then reveals that it's Morgan who's holding the gun. He instructs the man not to move, and the screen then fades to black. The next scene opens in an interview room at the local PD. Hotch says, "He let us take him. He didn't kill himself. That doesn't fit the profile of a workplace killer." Gideon says, "Sometimes we miss the mark. Let's be glad we did." Gideon says that he's their best chance at stopping the next attack. Detective Hanover says traces of botulinum toxin were found in the man's lab, but they've no clue of what he's up to next. Hodge says their only chance now is to make the unsub tell them his plans. Detective Hanover questions if he actually will. Reed says once caught, these types usually do. They want the whole world to know about their brilliant plan to destroy their enemies. Gideon says they need to... Insufferable, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's literally your keyword, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, now I have little cards to hold up.
Beautiful.
But I'm like, what an insufferable bastard.
I love it.
Thank you.
Oh
yeah, back to the episode.
Oh yeah. Gideon says they need to plan every angle in case the unsub doesn't give up any details. He says they need to re-examine everything they know about him. Reed says he'll check witness reports and forensic evidence to find clues of the guy's plan. Gideon warns them that a lot of lives could be at stake. Hotch interviews the unsub, who we find out is Mr. Hill. He asks him if he was romantically linked with Lynn Dempsey, as Lynn's sister seemed to suggest that he was. Hotch then asks him what happened to Lynn. Mr. Hill replies, the fact is Lynn was already dead. The company killed her years ago. Hotch asks if the company killed him too. Mr. Hill says they might as well have. He says, they took everything from me, fruits of my labor, best years of my life. They took my family, and when there was nothing left to take, they took two-thirds of my salary and my health insurance.
Okay, mate, you're not wrong. What you're looking for, though, is socialism,
Yeah.
not murder.
Yeah.
Just throw that out there.
Yes.
Look, I know this is 2005 and 2006 and you're not real, but just Google Bernie Sanders. He's saying everything you want to hear.
Yeah. Beautiful. Hodge says you have the opportunity to treat people with the mercy that they never showed you. Mr. Hill replies, I can't even tell you how little that means to me. I agree. Hodge asks what it would mean to his children. Mr. Hill looks around, unable to answer. Gideon tries to dissuade him from his plans, saying that he'd be stooping to the company's level if he carried out his plans. Gideon offers him help and tells him that they have things that they can do for him if they'll let them. Mr. Hill asks what can they do for him. Hodge says they're FBI, so they have influence with justice. They can help to see to it that Mr. Hill gets fair compensation and credit for his work. He asks Mr. Hill if that's all he ever wanted. Mr. Hill agrees. Mr. Hill's first name is revealed to be Ed at this point, and Hodge tells Ed that he's a lawyer and offers to take his case.
Ed says, they're saying, yeah, we can work with the Justice Department. We can get you compensation and credit for the work you created. He's going to jail. It doesn't matter if his name is in the, credits of a magazine article saying, yes, so this was because no one's going to care. Like, you don't care if someone found an anti-aging technology moisturizer. As soon as you hear mass murderer in the same sentence, you're not going to focus on, you look 10 years younger. You're like, there are a lot of brands who didn't actively murder people to do this, so gonna go with one of them, thanks.
Yeah, the wee-woos are coming.
And also, I don't think that it's true that Hotch is like, hey, I'm a lawyer. If you want, here's my card, I'll be your lawyer. I'll have to defend you and do what you say. I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true at all, because also, if you were his lawyer, would your conversations not then be privilege? Like, I get that if there's a third person in the room, i.e. Gideon, privilege is revoked.
Yeah.
But would that not mean that any conversation Hotch had with Hill on his own would be like, here's my lawyer, that's privileged information. And then Hotch is just standing there in court going, oh, damn it.
Shot himself in the foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just as an aside, someone as dumb as me should not be able to pull apart your amazing criminal strategy.
Yeah. Too bad.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm like, you might have missed something here, dude. Could you show your work? I think you've missed something. Anyway, moving on.
Yes. So Ed says, I would like my sons to know that their dad created something. I created something good. And he's visibly upset and anxious. What?
It's anti-aging cream.
Yeah.
It's not the cure for cancer. I hope that someday my sons are able to look back at my work and realize how good it did them when their wives don't look 50, they look 45.
Yay!
What? Are you kidding me?
Crazy.
If my dad was like, right, well, I've created a cream that will make women in their 50s look like they're in their 40s, I'd be like, all right. And they'd be like, but don't worry. The company tried to steal it from me, so I killed a bunch of people, and now my name's on the product. I'd be like, again, once you said murdered, I kind of stopped listening to the bit about the anti-aging cream.
Yeah.
wild.
So Gideon asks him to tell them what he's done. Ed reveals there's a party in the executive building this afternoon. All departments will be there, and he reveals that he spiked the punch bowl. In the next scene, Morgan and Elle arrive at the company and warn people not to drink from the punch bowl. Morgan reveals that the FBI informs the guests that the buffet is contaminated. Elle tries to reassure everyone and says that they'll get round to everyone to speak to them personally. The woman from earlier asks if everything is going to be okay. Elle says yes. Then JJ arrives and says that the CDC have arrived with 36 doses of antitoxin, and they're going to make sure that everyone gets some just in case they've ingested anything. Everyone seems concerned and worried, but JJ reassures them that all will be okay. At the PD office, Hutch and Gideon receive a call from JJ. She tells them that the punch bowl tested positive for botulinum toxin, and around a dozen people have reported symptoms, but they've all received antitoxin. Hutch thanks her for the info, and Gideon questions why Ed didn't kill himself when they caught him. Reed enters the room and says he thinks they have a problem. He's been looking over the victim reports. One of the victims was severely diabetic. He wouldn't have taken the candy from the bowl at the bank. Yeah.
I don't think Reed knows diabetics. First of all, it doesn't mean you should never have sugar, because that's how your blood sugar plummets, and then you collapse. So I think he might not know any diabetics.
Yeah.
An odd mistake to make, because as the daughter of someone who is diabetic, I know that my dad's blood sugar can crash and he will need sweets at that interval. Even when he doesn't need sweets, he can still eat them if he adjusts his insulin for it.
Unless he's in reference to a type 2 diabetic.
Yeah, but still, type 2 diabetics don't avoid candy at all costs.
No, but they have to reduce their intake of sugar.
They do, but I don't know any type 2 diabetics that are like, I will never eat candy ever.
Yeah.
That would be unrealistic.
Yeah.
And a total fucking pain in the ass. And even people with type 2 diabetes can get low blood sugars if they've cut back and they're like, okay, well, this is good. I haven't had any sugar today. I haven't had any carbs. And then it's like, well, my blood sugar does appear to be 3.7.
Crazy.
Yeah.
For record, mine's never been that low. Maybe in the 4s, but never.
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be between 5 and 8, I think.
Yeah.
At least that's what my dad has.
And mine's been like that for the last year. Before that, I was reaching over 10.
Dude, that's not really a massive thing. My dad's blood sugar, he has had type 1 diabetes for 56 years now.
Dang.
And that man still has loads of time where his blood sugar is either up in the teens and sometimes it's it will keep going off and it will keep being high and it will be 21 and it's well, I don't know what the fuck to
do. What have I eaten?
Absolute nightmare. Yeah, but a lot of times it doesn't even appear to be affected by what he eats. And his twin brother, who also has diabetes, his blood sugar plummets so much overnight that he could wake up in the morning and genuinely be under 3.
Jesus.
And that's fucking terrifying. Because much lower than that, and it's time to call an ambulance, you're going into a coma.
Oh, yeah.
So he has to get his blood sugar up to about 25 before he goes to bed to make sure that it doesn't crash overnight and he doesn't slip into a coma before his wife wakes up.
That's crazy.
Yeah, insane. Anyway, diabetes sucks, in case anyone was not aware.
So Reed has looked over the security footage and points out that the close proximity of the deposit envelope to the candy bowl. He zooms in and spots Lynn's hand is directly on a stack of envelopes. It appears that the envelopes were poisoned too. Reed mentions Lynn's words on her deathbed, which sounded like the end. He thinks what she was actually trying to say was the envelopes. He questions what Ed was actually testing. The LSD, the Rohypnol. Gideon says the delivery system. Reed says botulinum toxin and LSD are the only two substances in the world toxic enough to be effective in doses as small as 1/1000th of a gram, small enough to fit on the glue strip of an envelope. Hodge points out that the CDC didn't find any evidence of poison on the envelopes. Reed says they wouldn't have. The envelopes would have been destroyed after the checks were deposited and processed. Hodge realizes Ed was using the candy to throw them off and cover his tracks to distract them from the fact that he was testing the envelopes. Reed questions why he would test the envelopes but then spike the punch. Hodge says the punch is a decoy just like the candy bowl. Gideon says he's not finished. Hodge looks into the interview room and sees Ed struggling to breathe. They race in and pull Ed to the ground. He dies.
Shame. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
God damn it.
Anyway, we'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back to Looking for a Man in His 30s. Sarah, take it away.
Thank you. Morgan calls Hodge. He tells him that the victims at the office don't add up. They're all lower-level office workers. He says if this guy was trying to get back at the people who screwed him, none of them are here. Morgan tells Hodge that the entire upper management staff are currently away on a corporate retreat, the same retreat that Lynn helped to organize. They realize that Lynn was ultimately used for access to the retreat. Morgan tells him that the execs can't be reached until tomorrow. It's a no cell phones allowed type of thing. Hodge asks what they're doing there. Morgan says bonding exercises, playing games, etc. Hodge asks what type of games. In the next scene, the execs are all sat round a campfire at the retreat. They're discussing voting for a new team leader. All the execs are holding papers, and the guy talking reveals that he's brought along some envelopes for the secret ballots. They say balance then. For the secret ballots. Uh-oh. So this is why he was testing on envelopes. Because he knew. Anyway, back at the PD, Reed states that the victims need to ingest the antitoxin within 4 hours of being poisoned. Cut back to the retreat, the guy leading the group tells everyone to seal their envelopes, and one man's seen licking his. The next camera shot is of a car and a helicopter racing to their location. The camera shot returns to the campfire scene, and the rest of the execs lick their envelopes. The helicopter is searching campsites and relaying information back to Gideon. The helicopter gets radioed from state troopers. They found something near the access road of trailer exit 6. Team races there. Once at the location, they find medics and cops already helping the execs. Gideon reassures one of the men and calms him down. All are treated with antitoxin, and Gideon looks off into the distance as the frame transitions to the return jet scene. Gideon's closing bookend quote is at this point, and he says, Confucius warned us, before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. On the jet, Elle is laying on a sofa. Morgan's checking his phone. Gideon's asleep, surrounded by paperwork and files. Hodge walks through the jet, reading a report. JJ is going over crime scene photos. Hodge tells her to get some sleep. She says she needs to finish her report, and Hotch asks if everything is okay. JJ says there's always another file. The camera focuses on a crime scene photo of what looks like a skeleton in woodland, and she says this next one's pretty bad. She asks Hotch why he chose the BAU. He said he had prosecuted dozens of murder cases, but by the time that they reached his desk, he always felt like it was too late. He wanted to stop them before they got to his desk. Hotch says, that doesn't really answer your question. JJ says, no, it doesn't. They giggle, and Hotch says he guesses he's still trying to figure it out. JJ goes to lick the envelope to seal it, but stops herself. She says she'll try and get some sleep. Hotch looks out the window with a forlorn look on his face as the screen fades to black. Cue end credits.
Thanks for that, Sarah. We'll be back with the episode discussion after this short break.
Yep.
And we're back to talk about the episode. Interesting points, notable guest stars are baby girl or pretty boy of the episode. So, interesting points. Sarah, do you want to take this away or do you want me to?
No, I can do it, thank you.
Okay.
So, in the episode, Reed makes a comment about a dose of LSD being enough to kill a small child. Well, apparently, there's no known lethal dose of LSD. In 1972, a number of people accidentally snorted several thousand doses of powdered LSD, thinking it was cocaine. How do you do that? I have no idea.
Also, just one question. How much cocaine were they planning on doing?
I have no idea.
Okay, cool.
But it sounds dodgy.
Yeah, it does.
Anyway, so while these people were hospitalized with some internal bleeding, all of them made a full recovery within 48 hours. So,
good.
Apparently, even several thousand doses ain't gonna kill you. So,
yeah, and also I wonder if this is like the fentanyl fear mongering. I mean, I'm sure you've seen like other crime shows or hospital shows or even like firefighter shows where they're like, oh no, they touched this fentanyl bag and the traces of it made them immediately seize. And it's like, if fentanyl did that, then people would not be able to, sell it at any point. Like, if even touching the bag sends you into a seizure, how on earth are you dealing it on the street?
I know.
Are you just like you've got a big empty, big open bag, you stand 10 foot away with a gun, and then someone's like, okay, so I'll just get a scoop up. I'll make sure we get a new scoop each time, like you're at the fucking zero waste store.
Or they all wear hazmat suits while they're dealing.
Yeah, like in that case, it would be really freaking easy to catch a fentanyl dealer, wouldn't it?
Oh, there they are.
Oh, there they are in their hazmat suits in downtown. So yeah, like it's just one of those ridiculous things because if fentanyl had that high a dose, then they wouldn't use it in like medical situations. Like they used fentanyl as one of the things when my dad had to have an operation recently. You look at the medication he's given, and one of them was fentanyl, and it's like, oh, that drug that makes you seize after 10 seconds of being in the room with it, they put that straight into my dad's body. Oh, well, it's a miracle he survived then.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine injecting it into your veins and, I don't really know how it's injected, but imagine injecting that into your veins and then it's like, okay, well, you're now dead, but the good part is that you didn't need to have the endoscopy in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, is that what we're doing? Is that? I'm unsure. So yeah, I think that's a little bit of like the fentanyl scaremongering, but just like from the like the early 2000s version.
Yeah. Also, in other interesting points, some recent UK news relating to the poison that was used in the episode. Last month, the UK Health Security Agency, or UKHSA, issued a warning for people to be aware of the signs and symptoms of botulism following adverse reactions after receiving cosmetic procedures involving botulinum toxin. Reportedly, 41 cases were reported between June and August in the UK across the North East, North West, Yorkshire and Humber, East Midlands, and the East of England. Evidence so far suggests that this was down to the use of unlicensed Botox-like products. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if they were forced to call Botox botulism toxin injections, they would get a lot less people taking them up on the
100%.
procedure. But I'm also like worried about like the qualifications of the people that are doing the Botox injections, because like you see sometimes it advertised and it's just someone in their house and it's like, I'm not going to your house to sit in your living room for you to put a needle in my face. That seems like a way that I get killed.
I don't know about down there, but up here, like there's a few salons that offer it.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I want this done by professionals in a medical type setting.
Yeah.
I don't want there to be someone getting their roots redone on the other side of the freaking room. Like, if you're going to put a needle into my face, if you're going to put fillers or Botox or whatever into my face, I'm sorry, I require you to at least be like, I require it to at least be in a sterile environment. I don't want it to be like, you know, someone's outside just getting a blue rinse. Like, they offer it at my dentist surgery as well. And I'm like, who is doing this? Who is sitting there waiting for their dental checkup and then being like, you know what, I could use some Botox. Actually, it's probably cheaper than the hygienist, so maybe I should try that for looking younger.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be regulated more.
I think so as well. But I remember one of my friends used to work in a doctor's surgery and she was on the reception, and one time they were like, oh, we need more people trained to like take bloods to free the nurses up for stuff. So can you do this phlebotomy course? And she was like, okay, tell me a bit more about it. And they were like, well, it's a 1 day course. And I'm like, what? What do you mean it's a 1 day course? 1 day course and someone from reception is just going to stick a needle into my vein?
No.
Absolutely not. Like, oh, like we just need to free up the nurses to do other medical work. So we're going to train the people on reception to take blood and inject, like do vaccinations. Like that's fine, but they can't just have 1 day.
Yeah, no.
Like, I want this to at least be, you know, a week or a month type thing. Like,
100%.
You know when you learn a first aid course, you do a first aid course and you can do the training session, which just like 2 hours and teaches you how to do CPR.
Yeah, I did that. It was like half a day.
Yeah. But I would be like, okay, you do need more if like this isn't an emergency situation. If you see someone out on the street and you're like, crap, I need to restart their heart, you do not have any other medical knowledge and you're not being trusted by the NHS to conduct medical training or medical anything. So that's fine. You're doing the best with what you have. However, I don't want the NHS to be like, right, so we've got in Rosie, she's going to do your blood test today. She's a little nervous because she only did the 1 day course yesterday. I'd be like, honestly, Rosie, I think I'd rather take my own blood, thanks. Anyway, so yeah, there should definitely be more regulations. That scares me. But let's move on to the notable guest stars, which is one that I really enjoyed filling out for this episode.
Yeah, so I'll let you do this section.
Yeah. Okay, so Danny, the boyfriend of the poisoning victim, he was played by Matt T. Baker. He comes back in season 6 of Criminal Minds to play a member of a human trafficking ring. But other than that, he's not been in a lot, and I'm wondering if he might have changed careers after 2011. The unsub, Edward Hill, was played by Nick Jameson, and he's done a lot of voice acting. Like, I looked through his credits and I was like, my God, that's massive. If you watched TV in the 90s, you've heard his voice. He's done Star Wars, Disney, video games, and then he also had a career in music too throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Did you put that in, Sarah?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. I was like, I don't remember writing that.
Yeah, he was in a couple of bands and then did some solo stuff as well.
Oh, cool. Cool. Then the little boy that played Eric, the boy at the beginning beaten by his dad, that's Braden Lamasters. He's in a band called Wallows, and the reason I put this in was because another member of that band is Dylan Minnette, who was Clay in 13 Reasons Why, which Sarah and I have both watched. And Lamasters was also in 11/22/63, which I want to watch because I read the book.
Oh.
Jack, Eric's dad, was played by Peter Mackenzie. He's recurring on Blackish as Leslie Stevens, Dr. White / Kimball. I'll be honest, I don't know entirely because I've not watched all of Blackish, so I'm like, why is he multiple characters? But anyway, not important. I recognize him from Heart of Dixie, which is a TV show starring Rachel Bilson from like 2011 maybe, and Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23, which has Kristen Ritter and Dreamer Wilson and James Van Der Beek in it, which is actually really, really funny. And then did you put this in about Sonia Jackson?
I did.
Okay, cool. Do you want to take it away with that bit?
Yeah, so the one I found was so the head nurse at the hospital was played by a woman called Sonia Jackson. And when I was looking at her like past acting history, it turns out she played the role of the symposium leader in Jurassic Park 3.
I've never watched Jurassic Park 3, so
I think I caught clips of it.
Oh, okay.
I've never actually sat and watched the whole thing because my nephews won't let me. So
I like that they won't let you. That seems a bit.
Like, they'll watch it for a bit, but they like that. The only like scenes where there's like fighting or like attacking and stuff. I don't know why. Must be a boy thing. Who knows?
Probably.
But anyways.
Now, we have to move on to our baby girl or pretty boy of the episode.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, I don't know who I would put up for it. Do you have any ideas?
No, because that's why I left it blank too, because I haven't clue this time.
Oh, that's really awkward. Yeah, normally we give it to any of the standout members of the cast, whether they be main or guest cast. But yeah, this time we don't have anything, which is unfortunate. Okay, so it's not Gideon because he's like still riling people up.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, maybe Hotch, because he, he said, well, I wanted to intervene before people are charged with murder. I want to stop the cases from ending up on my desk. So yeah, actually, let's give Pretty Boy to Hotch this episode.
Yeah, he deserves it because we haven't picked him yet.
I think we picked him once.
Did we?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what episode. You'd have to go back and look through the
script. We're looking at me for the second time.
Yes, and yet again, Gideon is not. Gideon is
maybe one day he might get it, maybe not. We'll
maybe one day, maybe one day.
And we'll be right back with a true crime recap after this short break. Welcome back to Looking for a Man in His 30s. And this is going to be our true crime recap. So, Emma, it's time to deliver the profile.
Thank you, Sara. So, Criminal Minds Wiki suggests that Edward Hill was inspired by a couple of people. First of all, we have the Tylenol Murders. Have you ever heard of them, Sarah?
It rings a bell, but I can't remember fully what it was about, like the whole story.
Okay, that's all right.
I haven't heard
And
it.
the other is George Metzke, who you might know by his moniker, the Mad Bomber. And I'm sure you're thinking, wait, there are sane people who set bombs to kill people? Interesting. Interesting. But as always, I was like, that does not quite add up. That doesn't match every single bit of the crime. Do you remember in the first episode where I got really, really like over incensed with like, it must be the pickup ruse that was, and it was like, oh, you've wasted a lot of time going down some rabbit holes. So yeah, that was fruitless, but I do want to share my thoughts. So the envelope glue delivery method. Yeah. That, I believe, is based on an urban legend that was one of the early examples of like chain emails. You know, your aunt would send on to you and it would be forward, important, please read, urgent. Yeah. So in that urban legend, it was the ATM deposit envelopes where you would go to an ATM, they would have envelopes and you'd be like, I'm going to deposit £50. And then you would just put the envelope into the box and it would drop down. The idea is that someone had poisoned the glue on those envelopes. And so every time was going to deposit money at an ATM, they were getting poisoned. The rumor was that they were laced with cyanide and people had died from it. I have a quote from the email. Would you like me to do a dramatic reading?
Yes.
So, just so you know, this is all one long run-on paragraph. So I will be reading it as such without proper breaks in it.
Big deep breath.
Whenever you go to an automatic teller machine to make deposits, make sure you don't lick the deposit envelopes. A customer died after licking an envelope at a teller machine at Young and Eglinton. According to the police, Dr. Elliot at the Women's College Hospital found traces of cyanide in the lady's mouth and digestive system, and police traced the fatal poison to the glue on the envelope she deposited that day. They then did an inspection of the other envelopes from other teller machines in the area and found 6 more. The glue is described as colourless and odourless. They suspect some sicko is targeting this particular bank and has been putting the envelope beside machines at different locations. A spokesperson from the bank said their hands are tied unless they take away the deposit function from all machines. So watch out and please forward this message to the people you care about. Thanks.
Brother.
Nice to get.
Do you know on adverts where they do the terms and conditions like really fast?
Yeah.
That's what it sounded like.
Someone's going to have to play that on 0.75 speed. But yeah, it was just one run-on paragraph, and it like flashed me back to the early 2000s, going on forums to read fan fiction and being like, why has no one put paragraphs in this?
Yeah, there's no one breathe these days.
Yeah. But it is nice to get a thanks at the end of a misinformation post. Yeah. Maybe the boomers are right and we are all just a bit rude these days. I've never seen a TikTok video sharing an urban legend and they've got thanks at the end of it. Anyway, you'll be amazed to know that really legitimate sounding story where they definitely reference to real people like the Dr. Elliot and real places like the Women's College Hospital, with only one capital letter in the entire of that. Yeah. So you'll be amazed to learn that's actually false and was completely debunked by Snopes. Just to let everyone know, the police and the media aren't in the pocket of big envelope. If someone died after licking poisoned envelope glue, it would be on the local news. I know local journalism is dead and your city council gets away with so much because they can't send reporters to council meetings anymore. But a woman dies from poisoned envelope is definitely bumping the refuge workers' strike off the 6 o'clock news.
100%.
But there's still something bugging me, because I remembered a scare around envelopes in the early 2000s. Post 9/11, I was so sure. I was like, it's definitely after 9/11, like very soon after, like I'm talking weeks. Anyway, turns out I got the timeline wrong, but this basically in my brain had compiled both the anthrax letters and the ricin letters that were sent to senior figures in the US, including the White House and the Department of Transportation in the early 2000s. But that's a really interesting story, but it still wasn't glue related. So I'll find a way to work that story in another time. Maybe when I do my side cast where it's just Emma telling deeply upsetting stories.
Beautiful.
Okay, so I'm putting down the envelope glue. Let's move on to people wanting revenge on their employers to the point of murder. This brings us to George Metsky, the mad bomber. But bombs are really different to poison. So I'm like, I don't feel that this is really correct. Like, and he's also mentioned as potential inspiration for future unsubs. So another time for George Metsky. So poisoning. So the use of LSD as a poison could be based on the alleged secret CIA experiment targeting the French town of Pont-Saint-Esprit in 1951, which caused 5 deaths, 300 illnesses, and 30 severe psychiatric cases that sent people to asylums. For legal reasons, I should say this has been denied by the CIA. The event, which seemed at the time to be a particularly bad case of food poisoning, with the added symptoms of insanity, hallucinations, and suicide attempts. Well, I don't remember food poisoning ever causing hallucinations or suicide
Not in my
attempts.
experience.
But okay. So a theory, a popular theory is ergot poisoning, which is a sort of if the weather is bad that year, then the grain crops grow and they have a little bit of mold on them. And then if you do not sort out and remove the moldy bits, then you process it into grain for bread and it poisons people and gives them hallucinations. That is what they think the Salem witch trials is about. You know, why they were like, their spirit came to me and So anyway, the evidence for this is scant, and it seems like this is another case of a story I will have to tell another time, Sarah. So let's wait for the weeks when we do not release a podcast, and maybe I'll release that instead. Okay, we're on to killers who poisoned their colleagues. There's Graham Young, the teacup poisoner. But he didn't want revenge on his place of employment. He just seemed like a cunt. Like, he just seemed like he was doing it because he was like, this is funny if I poison people, isn't it? And it's like, I don't know, Graham, I think you're weird. Also, he hated the name of the teacup poisoner, so if I ever talk about him, I'm going to use that almost exclusively.
Just rub it in.
Oh no, do you hate being called the teacup poisoner, do you? Okay, all right. Let's talk about the Tylenol murders. So this is a case from 1982, which took the lives of 7 people over 3 days. And just before we start, I want to say that every single source I looked at had some discrepancy in the ages of the victims and the date when they took the Tylenol. I have mostly gone with the information from PBS, which I hope is correct. So September 29th, 1982. 12-year-old Mary Kellerman from Elk Grove Village, Illinois, told her parents she wasn't feeling too well. Her symptoms were a sore throat, runny nose, a routine illness her parents wouldn't have worried about. But they gave her 1 extra strength Tylenol capsule And a short time later, her dad heard her get up and walk to the bathroom, followed by a loud thud. He runs to the bathroom, calls through the door to her, and upon receiving no answer, goes in to find her unconscious on the floor. Her parents get her to hospital immediately, and doctors try in vain to treat her, but it is believed she succumbed to the illness either late that day or early the next morning.
Oh,
you know, going from a cold to dead, that's horrifying.
Very.
Meanwhile, in Arlington Heights, which is only about 10 miles from Elk Grove Village, Adam Janis, a 27-year-old postal worker, took 2 extra-strength Tylenol capsules to ease a muscle ache, and shortly afterwards he was taken to the hospital with difficulty breathing and low blood pressure. His family came to see him at the hospital and were shocked by his sudden death, as you would be, because every single victim in this case is otherwise fit and healthy. They didn't have underlying conditions. They weren't being treated for anything else. And because the poisoning was so quick, they were gone within hours. So Adam's family went back to his house to be together and talk and grieve. Adam's brother Stanley, who was 25, and Stanley's wife Teresa, 19, both felt they had headaches coming on because it's been a really stressful day. You've been crying a lot. So they find Adam's bottle of Tylenol and they take 2 pills each. Very quickly afterwards, both collapsed and were taken to the hospital, which shocked the medical staff who had worked on Adam earlier that day. Indeed, it was very, very rare for that, you know, having 2 ambulances called to one address over one day for different people. That's just, like, the probability is down there. Stanley died later that day, and the police were alerted because 3 perfectly healthy people in their 20s don't just suddenly need critical care for no reason. At first, they thought it might be something like a gas leak at Adam's home, but after checking that and finding nothing, they were stuck because if it wasn't environmental, what was it? Helen Jensen, a public health nurse who went with the police to investigate the home, found an open bottle of Tylenol in the bathroom and a receipt with that day's date on it, indicating that Adam had bought it that morning. She emptied the bottle on the counter, totted up all of the tablets, and found that there were 6 tablets missing. 2 for Adam, 2 for Stanley, and 2 for Teresa. She said, it has to be the Tylenol. And I know she's right, but that's still a massive leap without the benefit of hindsight. Even if the hospital knew that each victim had taken Tylenol, because why would you immediately jump to, it's the Tylenol, you know? With the benefit of hindsight, yes, she's right. What a genius. But at the time, you'd just be like, why would the Tylenol poison anyone? The police didn't take her seriously either, but still the tablets were taken for testing, and this proved the capsules had been opened and the medicine inside there, which I cannot pronounce, was replaced with 65 milligrams of cyanide, a dose that would have been lethal within 15 minutes without medical intervention. And even with medical intervention, they died really quickly. So at the time, these are still being treated as 2 separate incidents, Mary Kellerman and the Janis family, because they went to 2 separate hospitals. The link between the Janis deaths and Mary Kellerman were made by 2 off-duty firefighters who were listening to the police radio and thought how suspicious it was that 2 ambulances would be called to the Janis home in one day. And then one of these firefighters, their mother-in-law, came home And she was a nurse at the hospital where Callum was treated.
Mm.
And she was telling them this awful story about this little girl who had essentially gotten up complaining of a cold, taken a Tylenol, and then collapsed. And that was when the firefighters were like, I think this is linked. Mm. So they reported their suspicions to police. The bottles were investigated. They had the same batch number on. So immediately, people are thinking that batch number is what's going, like, they're thinking that batch number is all poisoned. So now the most important thing to do is to prevent more deaths. Initially, Tylenol manufacturer McNeil Consumer Products, which is owned by Johnson & Johnson, they issued a recall of that batch. So pharmacies, stores all across Chicago and possibly even Illinois went around, looked for that batch and took all of the bottles they could off of shelves. But this is the 1980s. They don't have social media. They could put out an appeal on TV, but people might not see that until it's too late. Yeah. So how do you update the public? Police drove around neighborhoods with their bullhorns on, telling people to throw out their Tylenol. Tip it down the toilet. By the way, do not do this with any drugs now, but at the time, yes, an emergency. And firefighters and other emergency workers went door to door in other neighborhoods, telling people, do you have Tylenol in the house? Do not take it. Throw it out. And as you see in the episode, this causes panic. Anyone who's taken a Tylenol in the last 2 weeks is suddenly, understandably, terrified and flooding into ERs across the local area. Even as public health officials try and reassure them and be like, unless you took Tylenol today, you're fine. Because if you weren't fine, you would be dead. Yep. Which is a terrifyingly blunt way to put it, but I mean, it's kind of like, please get out of the way. We need to treat the people that actually have poisoning. Unfortunately, this warning came too late for 27-year-old mother of 4, Mary Weiner, in Winfield, 35-year-old flight attendant Paula Prince from Chicago, and 31-year-old mother of 2, Mary McFarland of Elmhurst. One of the saddest things is that Mary Weiner's children found her, and they did alert their dad, and their dad took her straight to the hospital. Yeah. Absolutely chilling. And Paula Prince was, because she lived alone, she was not found until October 2nd, I believe, because no one noticed that she was missing until her sister was like, she didn't turn up for dinner. Because she was a flight attendant. She'd come back from a long flight and they thought, oh, Paula just needs some time to like rest and relax, get her stuff done in the house, you know. And then when her sister's like, she didn't turn up for dinner, she was found dead in her apartment. And those were just quite chilling things to me. And the discovery of these murders led to the revelation that this was not isolated to a single batch. This led to the recall of 2 further batches and eventually a full recall. This led to the recall of 2 further batches and eventually a full recall of Tylenol in Illinois and then across the country, totaling 31 million bottles in total. Thankfully, McNeil Consumer Products recognized that even if this would be a major financial loss, it was the right thing to do. They even took out ads telling people not to use Tylenol. And you can be cynical about this and say, well, they were only doing it to counter the negative press, but I don't care if someone has selfish motives for doing the right thing. They still did the right thing. Johnson & Johnson determined fairly quickly that the poisoning didn't occur in the factory, which led police to believe that someone had bought Tylenol from various drugstores across the cities outside, or the towns outside of Chicago, and poisoned the tablets at home by the gel capsules, so they come apart and the powder inside is what the actual medicine is. You can open the capsules really easily, and then they replaced the drug, as I said earlier, with potassium cyanide crystals before placing these bottles back on store shelves. And do you remember the recall? Well, it turns out that under inspection at laboratories, police found several more laced bottles across the greater Chicago area, which is fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Because who knows how big this could have gone. And also, like, emergency workers at the time admit that if it hadn't been 3 members of the Janis family in one day, they might not have made the link for a while. Because just if they're in different places around Illinois, they have different presenting symptoms. You know, someone has a cold, someone has a muscle ache, someone's got a headache. You wouldn't put that together with, well, I bet they were all poisoned with potassium cyanide. So if it hadn't have been for the firefighters off duty who were listening to the emergency calls and went, wait, why are there 2 calls to the Janis household in one day? If it hadn't have been for the in-law coming home and saying, we just treated this young girl, they wouldn't have linked it. And who knows how many more people would have died. So what does the profile say? Well, the Tylenol killer was profiled as a Chicago native who worked alone and was motivated by anger and or wanting to cause fear. He was likely a white male in his late 20s to early 30s, suffering from depression and feeling like society had wronged him. Oh, society wronged you.
That's nice violent.
So they also said that he would seek positions of authority like cop or security guard, but have a hard time keeping a job. It was theorized that the killer may have been a disgruntled former employee of Johnson & Johnson who tampered with consumer products by buying them, taking them home to weaponize them before placing them back on store shelves. The police determined that after the case, he would want to insert himself into the investigation. He would also want to revisit the stores where he dropped off the poisoned tablets and even the victim's grave. He could even go as far as surveilling the homes of his murder victims. And I say theorized because the Tylenol killer has never been caught. So they did have some suspects. Let me tell you about them. The first one, James W. Lewis. Why did they suspect him, you ask? Oh, because he sent a ransom letter to Johnson & Johnson demanding $1 million or there would be more deaths. His wife turned him in for that. Good for her.
Legend.
Right. So Lewis is an accountant. He was also known as Robert Richardson. Fine, whatever. Fucking weird.
Whatever you want to call yourself.
Yeah, whatever you like. I don't care. He was also suspected of writing a similar message to the White House demanding Reagan change his tax policies, or there would be more Tylenol deaths and he would blow up the White House. Now, I know what you're thinking. What kind of unhinged maniac decides to murder people with poison to get tax policies changed?
Yeah, that's a bit.
Hello? Have you ever heard of writing to your congressperson? So anyway, of course, there's a national recall of Tylenol products, so unclear how he planned to poison more of them. And also, Ronald Reagan isn't going to change his policies based on a little threatening note you write. He's going to change them based on whatever his astrologer says. This is also a really real story, but we don't have time for it.
No, we'll do it later.
I'll save the Reagan astrology story for another time.
Beautiful. I look forward to that.
Now, Lewis also helpfully showed police how one could have theoretically laced the capsules.
Okay.
No one asked him to. He's not like an expert that they just went to. He just kind of turned up one day, rocked up to the police station and said, look, I know how you do it. Look, you take this Tylenol, you rub it between your fingers, the seal comes off, you can pull that apart without damaging it, tap out the medicine that's inside, and then just put in potassium cyanide. And I'm sure you're thinking, wait, what? Who would come in and be like, right, I know how it's done? Anyway, he said he was just trying to be helpful. Excuse me, I have one.
It's suspect for me. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Trying to be helpful.
Who's there?
There's CCTV footage of Paula Prince buying her Tylenol bottle at the airport, and there is a figure in that CCTV watching her, and it kind of looks like Lewis, apparently. So, anyway, there is a slight problem with the timeline. You see, he was in NYC at the time of the murders, and given the length of time between inserting cyanide into the capsules and it being really fucking obvious that there's something wrong with the capsules, it's only a couple of days. Like, you would literally have to put it in, have the tablets taken by somebody that day, and have them literally take it within a day. Because otherwise the potassium cyanide would eat away at the gel capsule, and then you'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with these? I'm not taking them. So the problem is that according to one of the reports, well, according to most of the reports, he was in NYC at the time. Some reports had him going in early September, which is obviously not anywhere near the 29th of September. So it's not a foolproof defense, but he was not sentenced for murder. He was sentenced to 20 years for extortion and only served 13. Personally, I would have added on wasting police time. And actually, threatening the president. He threatened to blow up the White House. You don't get to just get away with that. Anyway, aside from Lewis, there were two other suspects, Roger Arnold and Laurie Dan. However, both of them were cleared of involvement. They also briefly suspected Ted Kaczynski, who we will come back to at some time, because there's definitely a Unabomber case in the Criminal Minds episodes.
Oh, yeah.
But they determined that Kaczynski wasn't responsible. So let's move on to Roger Arnold. So he actually contracted, well, say contracted, he suffered a nervous breakdown after being suspected of the murders, and then shot and killed whom he believed to be the bar owner who allegedly turned him in, but in actuality it was just a random pedestrian who looked sort of like this bar owner. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison for second-degree murder and only served half of the sentence. I don't know why they thought it was Arnold, though. So if anyone does know, feel free to write in. Then there's Laurie Dan, who was a mentally ill patient with a history of poisoning attempts. He was the perpetrator of a mass shooting at an elementary school, killing 1 and injuring 5 more students. He then committed suicide after taking a family hostage and wounding a man. So that is it for our true crime for today.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. So suspects, James Lewis. I'll be honest, I'm kind of like, maybe he had a helper that actually did the lacing of the cap.
Perhaps.
Because there is something really suspicious.
Yeah, he does.
I know that some people are just fucking dumb and they're like, let me write a ransom letter, even though I'm not the person. And it's like, maybe you shouldn't, dipshit.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the bit in the episode where we go over resources, a cause that is related to the episode, things that can help if you've been affected or might be affected by the issues raised. So what would Penelope Garcia do? So shall I take it away, Sarah, with the introduction bit of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we decided that for this episode we would look at resources to help you if you or someone you know is at risk of being poisoned. Sounds like the wrong way to say it, but if you suspect a case of poisoning.
Yeah, what to do yourself.
Yeah. So common sources that can cause poisoning are medicines, household cleaning products, alcohol and drugs, certain plants and mushrooms, pesticides, chemicals found in some workplaces, and carbon monoxide. And here is where I tell you, get a carbon monoxide meter. They look like this. You do need them. This is not an optional.
I can just see one across the room. I've got one here.
Yeah, they've got to be in the same room as the boiler, so
yeah,
boiler's there. Yeah, so if you're in rented accommodation, I'm pretty sure the landlord is responsible for installing, testing these, except you might be responsible for testing them, but the landlord is definitely responsible
for 100%,
supplying it. And if this starts to make any funny noises, I'll be honest, I was just trying to figure out whether I should test it or whether that would destroy my hearing and
last time
scare my neighbor who's out in the garden. So anyway, if it makes any noise at all, it's not supposed to be making noise. Something is wrong. It could be the batteries need changing, but it could also be a gas leak. So get out of the fucking house. These are the instructions for if you suspect a gas leak. Turn off the boiler. Open every window and door that you pass as you leave the house. Don't obviously, if the boiler's in the kitchen and so are you, don't run upstairs and open the windows up there. Just throw open the back door. Try and open the lounge windows, I suppose, and open the front door and stand outside. Do not choose this opportunity to have a cigarette. I cannot stress this enough. That's the worst thing you could do. Actually, no, if you're already outside, it's not the worst thing you could do. The worst thing you could do is actually complain that your carbon monoxide alarm's been making a funny noise and that you didn't do anything about it. Because boy, do I have a story for you, Sarah. So, I have this aunt. This was the beginning of last year. No, sorry, the beginning of this year, the end of last year, sometime around then. It's a dark, rainy sort of day. And she rings up and says, hey, I've got some problems. My carbon monoxide meter, I think she called it the thing in the boiler cupboard, making a weird noise. And I was like, what? Because she'd obviously rung to ask my parents for help. Yeah. But I was like, sorry, wait, things shouldn't be making a noise in the boiler cupboard.
Yeah.
And I was like, get out. Like, so my dad is just talking to her on the phone and she's being like, it just keeps making this beeping sound. It's really annoying. And I'm just there across the other side of the room being like, leave the house. What is this? How do you hear a carbon monoxide alarm going off and you're just like in the house going, the noise is really annoying. Could you come around and help and do something about it? And I was like, oh my God. So I Google what you should do in a gas emergency. And I was like, I took the phone off my dad and I was like, you need to open the back door, prop it open. You need to turn off the boiler. You need to leave the house via the front door and leave the door open. You have to ring the freaking gas people to come out and check that there's nothing wrong with the boiler before it explodes and takes down your house and your neighbours.
And
well, I passed the phone back to my dad thinking, well, this is sorted. Surely after that, she's going to pay attention. And she was like, oh, I don't know if I want to ring someone. I was like, fucking hell. So I was like, I'm going to ring someone. And I was like, hello, gas people. I don't know what they're called. But I was like, hi, my aunt has her carbon monoxide monitor going off and I'm calling to let you know so we can schedule someone to come out and look at the boiler. And they were like, okay, we'll be there within 2 hours. Okay. And I was like, that's brilliant. And they said, tell her to wait outside. And I was like, I fucking have. Like, I've even fucking said, you come round here, I will go stand in the forecourt of your house for 2 hours and wait for them. She was complaining about it being cold outside. And, oh, well, you know what? It's not cold. A burning fire because the house blew up. Anyway, so she is going on about how she doesn't want to go outside because it's cold. And then she kind of veers the conversation off into something else, something that has nothing to do with the fact she could very easily be blown up in the next 10 minutes. And so I'm on the call with the gas people and they're trying to establish, like, when did this beeping start? Can you tell us what kind of beeping it is? So I'm like, hey, how long has the beeping been going on? And she's like, it's been a few weeks. And I was like, a few weeks? What do you mean? There's been, and she was like, oh, I didn't want to ring you guys because you were away. Yeah, that was it. It was the end of last year because I was away. And I was like, all right, but there are many other people you could have called and said, my carbon monoxide meter is making a noise. Could you come round and look at it? Or hell, ring the gas emergency line. What do you mean? It's been a few weeks.
That's what. How she just killed.
I don't know. A gas leak would make so much fucking sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you think that there may be a carbon monoxide or any other gas leak in your house, if this is making any sort of noise, it shouldn't be. So I want everyone listening to this to get a pen or put in their phone these numbers. If you live in the UK, it's 0800 111 999. If you suspect a gas leak, you have to ring that number and you have to go outside. I know it's cold, but you know what? A little bit of cold is better than a massive bit of the boiler exploding and catching you in the face.
Yep.
If you are in the US, it's 1-800-892-2345. Please put their numbers in your phone as gas emergency. You don't want to look them up when the carbon monoxide meter is going off.
No. Do you want me to do the symptoms?
Yeah, sure. I think I've run out of energy now.
So, common symptoms of poisoning include nausea or vomiting, diarrhea, feeling sleepy, blurred vision, fever, confusion, difficulty breathing, seizures, and loss of consciousness. If the patient is responsive, try and get as much information as possible about what they may have ingested if they're aware and relay this information to medical staff. Importantly, do not force them to throw up unless this is advised by a medical professional or the emergency operator you speak to, as some poisons can cause more damage on the way back up.
Yeah, if it's something like bleach, it's already burned the esophagus going down. You don't want to burn it again going back up.
No. So in the UK, your first port of call in any emergent cases, if you suspect poisoning and the patient is experiencing these symptoms, would be to contact 999 for immediate medical assistance. In non-urgent cases, or for if you want advice or information on poisons, contact the NHS 111 service, either by dialing 111 on your phone or visiting the website at 111.nhs.uk.
And if you're in the USA, the poison helpline is 1-800-222-1222. This free number connects you to your local poison centre and is your resource in a poisoning emergency. You can call from anywhere in the United States and many of its territories. Save the number in your phone or stick it to the fridge now. Don't wait until you need it.
And that's all for this week, but come back next week when we'll be talking about Criminal Minds Season 1, Episode 14, Riding the Lightning.
And while you're waiting for the next episode, why not follow us on social media? We're on Instagram at Looking for a Man His 30s Pod, Tumblr at Looking for a Man His 30s Pod, or you can email us at lookingformanhis30s@gmail.com. I couldn't edit the email address to match the social handles. Fail. All 3 times, 30s is spelled out. Don't put 30 or you might get one of those bots that Instagram clearly thinks we are.
Thanks, Instagram. And you can also rate and review us on whichever platform you're using to listen to podcasts. It really helps more than you know.
Until next time.
This case is closed.